My first question to you. So, obviously, being a scout, working in the front office of a professional football team, it's the dream for a lot of people these days. So, my question to you is what made you want to become a scout and what made you want to pursue this as your career?
It's actually been an interest of mine since I was a little kid. I actually grew up a Browns fan, so the draft was always my favorite time of year. It was an opportunity to get better through talent acquisition. So it's something that was always of interest, and it's really something that I decided to pursue after doing or after playing junior college football and deciding what was next. So um, basically chose a university based on sports. Went to the
Mhm.
University of Arizona, and then from there tried to pursue a degree related to sports with the intention of ultimately becoming a scout.
For sure. So, you talked about playing in junior college. What position did you play?
Receiver, too small, too slow. I knew I didn't have a future in it.
Okay. Yeah, for me, I tried playing football too, but I noticed that football is more of like for me, it's watching on the sidelines, like taking notes of the game more than playing. But I still play
Yeah,
backyard with my friends here and there, have fun like that.
yeah. Eventually everyone gets to that point where they realize they're probably not going to make it. So you
Hmm.
start to transition into how do you get into the industry
Yep.
if you're not going to be playing. Some people come to that realization earlier than others.
Yep, for sure. So my next question is, working in an NFL front office is one of the highest places you can reach in the sports industry. And the scouting department specifically is a very unique department with very important intel. So can you take me through the environment of this front office and like the scouting department in general? Like what's the environment? How does it work with all of your colleagues and things like that?
Sure. I would say every NFL organization is the structure is different. Um, from my experience, we had we had road scouts, college scouts, a collection of those scouts that went on the road um, and went to every single college with potential draft prospects.
Hmm.
And they gathered the intel on all the college prospects, um, did the initial reports, everything like that, and then obviously presented their findings to the leadership group, which is a collection of 5 or 6 people, obviously the GM at the top. And then on the pro side, it's similar. There's pro scouts that watch all the NFL players for free agency, looking at potential trade targets, as well as doing the advance reports. So before each game, they do a detailed evaluation of every player on the roster and then present that to the coaches. So that's a huge aspect of the pro side. And then the directors, there's a college director who's responsible for basically the logistics of making sure all the colleges are visited and all the potential prospects are evaluated. So they're basically in charge of all the road scouts. And then there's also a pro director who's in charge of all the pro scouts, and they also do evaluations as well for both college and pro. But it's really a highly interactive, a lot of sharing of ideas, and a lot of very bright people coming together trying to build a winning football team.
Yeah, for sure. All right, thank you for that. So you were talking about pro scouts and college scouts. So when you were with the Browns, were you a college scout or were you a pro scout? How did it work?
So actually, I had the opportunity to do a little bit of both. I was in the house. So what that entailed was pro scouting, some pro scouting experience, as well as being able to go on the road um, and, and visit some schools. Um, but one of my primary responsibilities was just um, related to analytics. So play by play evaluation. It's becoming more prevalent in the league. So that was one of my major roles is evaluating both college and pro players. Um, and inputting all the data on every single play. So it's quite extensive and requires a bunch of manpower to do it.
Hmm.
Um, So I got experience in all those facets.
Yeah, that's great. Um, So, being a scout, it relates to all things personnel related, whether it be looking at college players and, as you said, looking at players that you could potentially acquire. So, you said you did a little bit of both. So, what is your favorite part about scouting talent and evaluating players?
Sure. I think it's just the opportunity to potentially pick or bring in a player that could help you win games. I remember when we had the first overall pick
Mhm.
back in 17
Yeah.
when we took
Yep.
Miles Garrett. Um, I remember watching his tape in the near the end of the previous season, knowing that we were on track to have the number one overall pick, and it was just incredibly exciting
Yeah.
because it's pretty obvious when you see a guy like Miles on tape that he's just going to be a star.
Yep.
Um, so really, that's the most exciting part is being able to throw on the tape and realize that you have the potential to get a player that could really improve your roster and help win games down the line.
Yeah, for sure. So, a little sidetrack here, but every year I actually sent letters to the Seahawks because I'm a Seahawks fan. I used to send letters every year to John Schneider, the general manager, and I'd give him my takes on who they should draft and like
Oh,
who I
that's
think.
great.
Yeah, I was like who I think they should take. I watched some players too, but I was a lot younger and I was, not really. I didn't understand all of what talent evaluation was. I was doing a lot of like mainly looking at stats, not necessarily watching film, things like that. But it was fun. So I used to do that every
Yeah,
year. And
it's funny because like I said, growing up a Browns fan, one of the most exciting things
yeah.
was having the opportunity to actually bring a winner to Cleveland.
Mhm.
It took longer than I expected. During my 6 years, we didn't win any games, but um, the foundation that we put in place over the
Yeah.
past 6 years is really coming to fruition now.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we're seeing it right now. Pretty good team developing. You got a lot of talent. All right. So next question. For a lot of people, as well as myself, who are interested in potentially working to be a scout in the NFL, but aren't too aware of like what the job comes with, the ups and the downs. So could you highlight some of the more challenging things about being a scout? What are some of the difficulties that come along with scouting as a job in the NFL?
Sure. So for one, the demand for the job is so high that it requires one just exceptional luck, but also uh, an immense amount of investment in your time um, to get one of these jobs for one, and then once you have it, it's time consuming. It's it absorbs basically your whole life. I'm from California, and
Yeah.
I moved out to Ohio for 6 years, and basically my life was pretty much working.
Yeah.
So while I was there, I tried to invest as much time as I could because I was trying to take steps towards my goals. But
Mhm.
one thing to consider if you're looking to get in the industry, I'd say sports in general. Um, it requires a huge time investment. It's not traditional hours. It's not 9 to 5s. It's 7 to 7s. It's making sure you get all your work done. It's every day a grind, and that can be um, difficult if you start to build a family. It can be difficult because there isn't as much security in the industry because you're heavily reliant on your win and loss record, and also who's in a leadership position and the potential uh, of some of your guys getting plucked and bringing you along. So
Yeah.
it's hard, but it's certainly worth it if you're in the right situation.
Yep, for sure. Um, so take me through the steps you took to get a job in an NFL front office. So, what were some of the things that you did in high school and college? And then you touched upon this a little bit earlier, but what were some of the things that you did there that you think really helped you land the job with the Browns? So, what were some of the things that you thought were really important that the Browns looked at when they were looking to hire you as a scout?
Sure, I actually I touched a little bit of this on my blog on Elite Scout School. Um, but basically, I mean, I'd have to start from the beginning. Like I said, after junior college, I was deciding what I wanted to do next, and it was pretty apparent that I wanted to be a scout. Um, so the choosing the university that I went to was huge in potentially landing a future job. I ultimately decided on the University of Arizona, and from there, right when I got there, I knew I had to get a job with the football team. Um, it's advice that I give everybody that's going into college or is already in college is do everything you can to get a job with the football team if that's what you want to do. So I emailed the recruiting director. I contacted coaches. I was around there because I had an internship um, elsewhere in the athletic department. And I also emailed equipment and they got back to me. So I went and visited them, ultimately got a job with them. And I only had a year because I was a transfer to earn a recommendation so that I could potentially get a job in the NFL. So that's what I did. I just put
Mhm.
my head down and I grinded and ultimately earned a recommendation. And I knew my avenue into the NFL was in equipment because that's the experience that I had. Um, so got a really quality recommendation from my boss. He knew I was a Browns fan, so he had contacted them. I didn't know them personally, but he knew some connections that knew them, and his recommendation ultimately landed me a job in equipment with the Browns.
Mhm.
And I did that for 2 years. And near the end of my tenure as an equipment manager, I made it known my desire to transition into scouting, and they were pretty receptive because of the work and the effort that I had put in while I was in equipment. So I wasn't trying to get ahead of myself. Um, I put in the work and ultimately earned the recommendation from the equipment guys. I had built relationships over 2 years with the scouting department, so I had started to do a little bit of work with them, but it ultimately led to an external role in scouting. And then after the conclusion of the draft, which is the hiring cycle,
Yeah.
I was able to get an interview and then transition into scouting.
Mhm.
So essentially, it's the old saying, just get your foot in the door.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, thank you for taking me through that. So you were a scout with the Browns. So how many years did you do this for?
I did it for 4 seasons.
Okay. So in these 4 seasons, what was your relationship as a scout to the general manager and the coach? Do you speak with them often about some of the prospects or players you have an interest in? So in general, what was the communication like between the general managers and the higher ups, and with the scouts and the coaches?
So fortunately for this question, I had the opportunity to work under three different GMs.
Mhm.
So Ray Farmer was the GM while I was in equipment. Then Sashi Brown became the GM. Um, Andrew Barry
Yeah.
kind of running the scouting operations, and John Dorsey after that. I mean, it varied substantially from regime to regime.
Yeah.
I would say that the best of those allowed for great communication across all levels. Uh, I remember Sashi had such an emphasis on developing his young scouts, knowing
Yeah.
that it was going to have value down. So we got to experience a ton, put us through a ton. We were in all the meetings, so we were in constant communication and talking to players and under Andrew Barry. So, uh, and also they attempted to get the coaches involved as well because it's important that there isn't a rift between the coaching staff and scouting, and that can happen. You certainly see it a lot um, because coaches and players might have different short-term goals or um, you know scouting department is specifically focused on the long-term health and the long-term
Yeah.
success of the team, while a
Mhm.
coach is focused on the very next game. So that's how you can butt heads, especially when you're not winning a ton of games.
Yeah. Thank you. Um, So, as a former scout yourself, what do you think it takes to become a quality scout in the league? What are some traits you think all scouts in the league that are successful usually maintain to have a successful career?
Sure. I think it's quite a few things. One, it's just having repetition in your evaluations, um, writing as many reports as you can. It's the advice that I gave to you when we
Yeah.
talked originally.
Hmm.
It's kind of why I started this developmental with Elite Scout School. It's the importance of just repetition. When I first started in the league, um, I thought I had some baseline football knowledge, and I think I did. But from a scouting perspective, I was a complete novice, and I had wished I had done a lot more from an evaluation perspective because that's going to put you in a good spot um, when you finally do land the job. And another thing is just beyond being able to evaluate, you also have to be able to communicate the strengths and weaknesses of each individual player. You're essentially selling your evaluation to a GM, to the decision makers, and it's important that you're able to identify what a player is and clearly present your findings to the GM. Um, so that's and beyond that, it's overall communication skills. It's being able to uh, interact and work well with the people around you. And as a road scout specifically, you're required to develop relationships with these schools and these pro liaisons and the coaches and the recruiting directors because they're your sources for how you get information on players. So
Yeah.
it's just it's so necessary that you have some communication skills, and there's so many ways to develop that. From Toastmasters to whatever it may be.
Yeah.
It's just talking through and being able to learn how to talk like a scout.
Yep. Thank you. So you recently started your very own scouting academy called Elite Scout School, and congratulations on this. I know it's a tough time to start these things, but what made you really want to start this, and what drove you or gave you motivation to step down from your job as a scout to start something brand new like this from the ground up?
Yeah, I think what I realized as I was deciding what I wanted to do next in my career, I had a baseline skill set that I think has value for other people trying to get into the industry. And I'm constantly contacted um, uh, for advice on how to get into the industry. And I know a bunch of scouts that, um, while they're on the road, they take these phone calls and communicate with people on how to get in the industry. It's just something that is in really high demand. So I realized that there was a void there. There are some other services, but they're usually not affordable for a college student. So I wanted to make it affordable, and I also wanted to help people land their job, their dream
Mhm.
job, just like people let me or help me.
Yep, certainly. Uh, so I'm gonna ask you a few fun questions here. So, for you personally, what time of the year do you look forward to the most? So, is it the regular season, playoff time, draft season, free agency? Which one is it for you?
Oh, it's definitely the draft. It's the most exciting part of the year for a scout. It's the culmination of all your hard work, and then you just get to sit back during draft day with no extra responsibilities, and just watch your hard work and see where guys go and see who you acquire and who's going to make your team better. So it's a culmination of about 14 months of work, um, and it results in a really exciting couple days for a scout.
Hmm. Yeah. Um, yeah, for sure. Always people call me crazy. I talk to my friends like my favorite time of the year is definitely draft season. I take it over the Super Bowl sometimes. I just love watching the draft. It's always so much fun to see how it unfolds, how GMs make their decisions and stuff. It's great.
Definitely,
Um,
it's always been my Super Bowl.
yeah, definitely. Um, so I have to ask you this one. So what is the war room like on draft night? So, and I'm not sure about how all this works. Are all the scouts in the usually in the war room? And how does that experience work on draft night? So what do the scouts do more specifically?
So for the most part, the scouts do nothing. We hang out. We eat a lot of food. There's catered like 6 meals, and you just watch as the draft unfolds. Um, Not all scouts are in the room. It depends on which team, how much room they got,
Mhm.
all that. Depending on if the owners are there, the owner's family. It's just dependent on how many people they can fit in the room. Um, uh, it's intense for the decision makers.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's nerve wracking, but from a scout's perspective, the work is done. So you kind of just get to sit back and enjoy it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So what are your favorite prospects that you've scouted coming out of college? So the guys for the Browns, what are your favorite prospects coming into the draft?
Yeah, I mean the obvious one was Myles Garrett.
Yeah.
Just incredibly easy evaluation
Mhm.
because of because of how many elite traits that he had.
Mhm.
Um, those ones are the ones that you just put on the tape and you just kind of sit back and enjoy them because
Yeah.
it's just such an easy evaluation. I think anyone watching can identify this
Yeah.
skill set. It's those lower tier guys that are a little harder to evaluate. Another guy, I mean, I was really excited about Baker.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, he lit up college, obviously, but he also had quite a few traits that were pretty exciting, from arm strength to accuracy to his decision making in college was really good. He's still developing that at the
Mhm.
NFL level, um, but it was exciting because, for one, it seemed like there was four good quarterbacks in that draft.
Yeah.
So we felt pretty confident about getting one. Um, it hasn't quite turned out that way, but part of it is, I think, is circumstance for these players.
Mhm.
Um, but that was incredibly exciting because, from our perspective, we hadn't had a franchise quarterback in 20 years. So,
Mhm.
the first overall picks, incredibly exciting. Uh, Denzel was obviously an excellent player, went four. Um, but yeah, those are some that come to mind.
Yeah, for sure. Baker. The Browns have an overall pretty stacked team now. They added pretty good guys in free agency. I like the Jedrick Wills pick. It was a pretty good selection, and I think that draft, the 2017 draft, where there's Baker, Josh Allen, Josh Rosen, all the Sam Darnold. Uh, I think all those guys were really, really good. And nobody knew. I remember I was following closely. Nobody knew who the Browns were going to take. It was super like they had it super, closed off at the beginning of the draft season. We all thought, oh, it was going to be Sam Darnold, and then Baker's a wild card guy, and they got Baker, and it was
Yeah,
it's an interesting draft night for sure. Um,
I can tell. I can tell you that we had no idea either. Uh, John Dorsey kept that really close to the vest, so we didn't know until draft day.
yeah, that's all I have for you. But thank you. Again, this means a lot, having you on here, having to talk to someone, get some good advice means a lot from you. Uh, Appreciate it a lot. Thanks.
Yeah, no worries. I appreciate you having me on, and anytime you want me to come on again, just let me know.
Yep. Yep, for sure. All right. Thank you.
All right,
Have a
sounds
nice
good.
day.
See ya.
Yep.
For more creative, informative, and high quality sports content, make sure to follow Phenom on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter, as well as all of the Phenom podcast channels for each sport. The link tree in the episode description includes a direct link to all of the aforementioned platforms, so click on that to access everything. Phenom boasts a team of over 100 youth contributors from around the world, covering every sport on every media platform. If you are interested in potentially joining the Phenom team as a writer or content creator, send an email to cole@phenommedia.net showing your interest. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe so we can grow the channel. We really appreciate it. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.